Rome in the year 27 BC looks much like Rome does today, the seat of an unrivaled power that stretches from North Africa to Spain to Egypt, all brought under one banner and ruled with absolute authority. But just a generation earlier, this land was divided into warring factions, and Rome itself was just a republic. The man who pulled Rome out of the mud and onto the path of greatness is the subject of today's episode. Let's talk about Augustus. The year is 44 BC. Julius Caesar, dictator of Rome, has just been assassinated by a group of disgruntled senators. The city is in chaos, and the republic is in crisis. Caesar's adopted heir, Octavian, along with Caesar's grandnephew, Marcus Junius Brutus, and a handful of other Roman nobles, are among the leading contenders to fill Caesar's enormous shoes and take control of the crumbling empire. This is what the situation looks like when our story begins. Our protagonist, Octavian, isn't yet Augustus. He'll take that name later, but he's already rich, powerful, and politically savvy. As Caesar's adopted son, he's second in line to rule the republic and stands to inherit Caesar's vast fortune. But there's a problem. Octavian is young, only 23 years old, and may not be up to the task of managing a sprawling empire. Fortunately, he doesn't have to do it alone. Gaius Octavius, his great-uncle, and the last surviving member of the great Caesar family, is around to help him navigate the treacherous waters of Roman politics. So far, Octavian hasn't had to worry too much about politics. His father died when he was only a baby, and his mother was happy to let him live a carefree life, largely unsupervised. The result is a spoiled young man who knows how to get what he wants, even if it means bending the rules. For example, although Octavian isn't old enough to hold political office, he manages to get himself appointed to the important governing body of the Roman state, the triumvirate. Along with Mark Antony, the triumvirate will manage Caesar's affairs until a suitable replacement can be found. But others aren't so willing to bend the rules for Octavian, like Cicero, one of Rome's most revered statesmen. He believes Octavian is too inexperienced to govern and tries to keep him out of politics. But this gambit fails. Soon enough, Octavian, aided by his uncle, manipulates the other senators and takes control of Rome alongside Mark Antony and Lepidus. Now, you might be wondering where that other famous Caesar, Marcus Brutus, fits into all of this. Well, he doesn't. In the struggle to succeed Caesar, Brutus comes off looking like a bit of an idiot. Sure, he stabbed Caesar to death, but then he just sort of floundered around waiting for someone else to take charge. And when Octavian offered him the position of dictator, he refused. Perhaps he thought he would be hailed as Rome's savior, or maybe he just didn't like being told what to do. Whatever the reason, he ends up on the losing side of the Battle of Philippi, and both he and Cassius end up dead. And now Octavian's work is done. There's no one left who can challenge his authority. But that work isn't nearly as easy as he imagined. Now that Octavian is in control, he finds out why Caesar was so hated by the Senate. Senators don't like being controlled by a monarch, especially not one who seized power through underhanded means. They tried to tell Octavian how to run the republic, but he won't listen. Instead, he works with Mark Antony to remove them from positions of power and replace them with loyal supporters. Soon the two triumvirs are at war with Sextus Pompey, a general who commands the last significant fleet of ships loyal to the Republic. It's a brutal conflict. While Octavian occupies Sicily and Africa with his legions, Pompey takes control of the seas and lays waste to the Roman countryside, pillaging coastal cities and disrupting trade across the Mediterranean. To make matters worse, Sextus's brother Gnaeus takes the fight to the east, occupying vital grain-producing provinces and cutting off food supplies to Rome. It's a disaster. In fact, the people of Rome are so desperate for food that they are willing to eat their way out of the crisis. They elect Pompey's sister, Cornelia Metella, to the prestigious role of priestess of the goddess Ceres, because she's known for her vast wealth and extravagance. It's not hard to imagine her throwing around fistfuls of gold to feed the poor. But while the people see her as a savior, the Senate sees her as a threat. The timing couldn't be worse. While Sextus controls the seas and Cornelia controls Rome, Octavian is stuck in the middle trying to figure out what to do next. He's ready to move against Cornelia, but he needs a powerful ally. So he sends his best friend, Agrippa, to meet with Mark Antony in hopes of getting some assistance. But instead of finding a helpful friend, Agrippa finds an embittered lover scorned. It turns out Mark Antony is head over heels for Cornelia and has no intention of opposing her. In fact, he's planning to marry her and make her Queen of Rome. Now, obviously, this is a huge problem for Octavian. He has designs on ruling Rome himself, and marrying Cornelia would make that impossible. To top it all off, Mark Antony is planning to wed Octavian's sister Octavia to his brother, thus binding the two families together and solidifying their alliance. This could be a really bad development for Octavian, but thankfully, he has a secret weapon. It's the most potent force in the ancient world: propaganda. You see, despite being good friends, Octavian and Mark Antony have very different ideas about how Rome should be governed. And so while Octavian is making plans to destroy his rival, he's also carefully crafting his public image, presenting himself as the champion of Rome and Mark Antony as a power-hungry tyrant obsessed with pleasure. He bribes poets and playwrights to compose flattering pieces about himself and damning screeds against Antony. Then he distributes them throughout the empire, planting seeds of doubt about Antony's character and loyalty to Rome. In addition to this whispering campaign, Octavian hatches a plan to ruin Antony's personal life. He asks Antony to divorce his wife, Octavia, and return her to her family. But Antony refuses. Octavian doesn't care. He goes to her family directly and asks them to annul Octavia's marriage to Antony, claiming that the two never consummated their relationship. With Octavia freed from her unwanted marriage, Octavian wastes no time cementing his own claim on her. He weds her in a lavish ceremony in Athens, making it clear to anyone who will listen that he is the true champion of Rome. Meanwhile, Mark Antony, now free from his annoying brother-in-law, throws himself into his relationship with Cornelia, who becomes the de facto ruler of Rome. But Octavian's propaganda campaign has borne fruit. People are starting to whisper about Cornelia's vast wealth and accuse her of hoarding grain that should be going to feed the poor. Cornelia retaliates by seizing property from suspected supporters of Octavian and redistributing it to her followers, which, honestly seems like a pretty reasonable response to what Octavian's been doing. But it only makes her look more tyrannical in the eyes of Rome's elite. And soon enough, even Octavian's enemies are calling for her to be put to death. Mark Antony, realizing that his relationship with Cornelia has become a liability, breaks things off with her and returns to the east to try to restore order. Unfortunately, he doesn't make it very far before meeting his demise. Legends say that he expired in a drunken stupor clutching a sword. But history tells us that Octavian's navy surprised his fleet, causing him to flee to Alexandria, where he was met by his doom. According to Plutarch, Cleopatra fell in love with Antony, but was appalled by his slovenly appearance. She wanted him to come visit her as a guest, but when he showed up dirty and covered in sweat, she refused to let him in. When he threatened to kill himself, she ordered him to be killed instead. Either way, the end result is the same. Mark Antony is dead. Octavia is back on the market. And Octavian, now undisputed master of Rome, is quick to snap her up. His consolidation of power is complete, but he's not quite ready to declare himself emperor. For that, he'll need to get past Sextus Pompey. Sextus has been frustrating Octavian's efforts to bring stability to Rome since the beginning of the Civil War. By seizing key shipping lanes, he's disrupted trade, causing widespread famine and plunging the Roman world into economic crisis. He's also proving to be a skilled general, defeating Octavian's forces at sea and terrorizing the coast of Italy. For years, Octavian's attempts to dislodge him have failed, but finally, near the end of 39 BC, the tide turns. Near the Sicilian coast, Sextus's flagship runs aground, leaving him vulnerable to attack. A boarding party led by none other than Agrippa captures him and brings him back to Brundisium, where Octavian awaits. He offers Sextus a choice: either join him and receive a noble's welcome, or face trial as a traitor and risk execution. This is an easy decision. Sextus surrenders, and he and his family are pardoned. In addition to ending the naval war, this victory gives Octavian control of the seas and allows him to start thinking about invading Egypt and putting an end to Cleopatra's reign. Once again, though, Octavian is smarter than his enemies. He knows he needs popular support to wage war, and he has no intention of starting a conflict that could turn the people against him. Instead, he settles down, starts a newspaper, and gets to work securing the borders of his new empire. As Rome enters a long period of peace and prosperity, Octavian's popularity skyrockets. Everywhere he goes, he's greeted by cheering crowds who call him Augustus, meaning venerable. It's a title he quickly embraces. His official name becomes Gaius Octavius, but everyone calls him Augustus. Meanwhile, the Julio-Claudians, the dynasty that Augustus starts, go on to produce 5 emperors, though few of them prove worthy of Augustus's legacy. In fact, Augustus himself comes to regret naming his successor Tiberius, who proves to be an unpopular and ineffective ruler. Augustus wasn't just Rome's first emperor, he was the mold for every autocratic leader who came after him. He laid the groundwork for the system of government that would direct the Roman Empire for centuries. But he was also more than a mere politician. He was a builder. Rome's greatest monuments, the Pantheon, the Forum, the Augustan temples, all bear his name. He remade Rome in his own image, and in doing so, changed the course of Western civilization forever. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, consider supporting the channel to help pay for editing, music, artwork, and all the rest. We've got behind-the-scenes posts, a patron-exclusive podcast, a server, and more. Visit our support page or click the link in the description. If not, that's okay too. Just subscribe and leave a comment. See you next time.